What's going on, folks? So today's discussion is going to be on calories and the way we set them up in the plan, and some of the mistakes that many of you are making with regards to not adhering to the plan based on things that you think you know or things that you're worried about, maybe some insecurities or uncertainties you have about calories. Now, one of the things I've tackled quite frequently across both forums is people undereating, choosing to undereat or choosing to worry about the amount of calories that are set up on a plan. That, or dramatically underestimating the amount of calories you are going to burn when you're setting up your calories at the end of each month. So, if we were to take the basics of what we see day to day, and most of your understanding of what we do is calories in versus calories out. Okay, excuse the writing, not too good on the whiteboard. So this essentially, based on the laws of thermodynamics, is the basis of fat loss. However, there is a lot more to this. So if we were taking calories in, this is essentially our food. Okay, calories out is activity. Now, if we were to take the activity first, activity is our heart beating, our lungs pumping air in and out of our body, our brain operating, our muscles moving, our digestive system being active. So there's a lot of stuff that we are doing involuntarily that is automated within our body in order to keep us alive and to keep our processes moving. Now, that means that even before you have woken up, before you've opened your eyes in the morning, your body is already burning calories, okay? So some of the calories out have already been factored in. Then you're gonna get up. You're going to walk to the bathroom, you're going to do your teeth, you're going to have a shower, you're going to go and have your breakfast, you're going to go to work, you're going to do your day-to-day. All of these things burn calories. All of these things require energy in order for your body to do. So on top of the automated processes, you have your active processes. Then on top of that, we're going to add exercise activity, which you are purposefully trying to burn even more calories in order to get a result. So the calories out that you are burning very often is significantly higher than you think. Okay, so that's the first thing we need to consider. If we talk about calories in, now, what we tend to do when people diet is they think, well, if I just eat less calories than I burn, I'll be sweet, everything is going to work. However, what tends to happen if we do that is we will starve ourselves. We'll pull away so many calories thinking that what's going to happen is we're going to burn loads of fat much, much more quickly. Now that simply isn't the case because those calories are required for all of this. If you don't give your body enough, the automated processes stop working, you move less, your intensity is less in your training sessions, etc., etc. Okay, so if we are just thinking very simply calories in, calories out, we're going to have a problem. There's way more to it. So we'll wipe this down, get rid of all of this. Now, what we need to look at with the calories in, the purpose of our calories in is, number one, to sort out all of the automated processes. Number two is to feed our NEAT, okay? NEAT being non-exercise activity thermogenesis. This is the stuff you are doing that is not training in the gym. This is walking around day to day, sitting in your office, it's fidgeting, getting up to go and get a glass of water, all these things. We are also then going to take exercise, okay? Exercise, for the majority of you, you're going to burn anywhere between, let's say, lighter females, between 300 and 400 calories per training session. Potentially, those of you who are training a bit more intense could be more than that. Your average male is probably going to burn 400 to 600 calories in an average pretty intense training session, okay? So we can add that as well. Then we have just general extra stuff. If you're adding your 10,000 steps, this, that, and the other. Okay, so to break this down, the more muscle tissue you have, the more calories you are burning with your automated stuff. The more muscle tissue you have, the more calories you're burning with your NEAT. The more muscle tissue you have, the more calories you are burning when you exercise, okay? So it makes sense that if we are trying to get leaner, we're trying to lose fat, we want to build or preserve as much muscle as possible. Now, you can only do that with adequate amounts of calories. If not, you're going to starve yourself, you become emaciated, you've got no muscle tissue. So for perspective, research has suggested, consider the kind of calorie goals that some of you have got in your mind. Now, of course, this is going to be different person to person, age, activity level, exercise intensity, but if we were to take just the brain, nothing else in your body, just the brain, thinking day to day for the stuff that's going on, for it running your body, that's going to require between 300 to 400 calories every single day. 300 to 400 calories just for your brain. This is this one section of your body. Now, imagine if you've decided to go down to 1,000 calories a day, or 600 calories a day like the NHS suggests, or 900 calories a day. Half of that has already gone just on your brain. So what do you think your muscles, your heart, your kidney function, your lungs, everything else has to use? You've basically given it another 500 or 600 calories to do everything for a 24-hour period. There's no logic in that. Actually stop and think about that. It doesn't make any sense. If this one small section of your brain takes that amount of calories, what do you think the rest of your body does, even just to operate? Then again, we add exercise, we add steps, we add walking around day to day with work, dealing with the kids, whatever, okay? So if you are constantly trying to pull your calories lower, thinking that that is gonna help, it's not, okay? What we want to do, our goal is to feed ourselves with as many calories and as many nutrients as we possibly can whilst getting leaner. It's you really need to shake off, because some of you have still got this drilled into your brain. You really, really need to shake off that less calories means fat loss. Very often, so many of you are already starting too low when you come into a plan. When I say, right, eat X amount of 100 more, 1,000 more, you say, oh no, I can't do that, I'll get fat, I can't get fat. If you were where you wanted to be based on what you've already done and what you think you know, you wouldn't have started the plan in the first place, okay? So, if we were to take all of that, we'll just ballpark some figures to give you an idea and a bit more perspective on it. So we know that the brain takes about 400 calories, let's say, give or take. The body, then with its activity, etc., blah, 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 is going to take X amount more. Okay, let's say for most people, between 1,000 and maybe 1,500 on a bigger guy. So then we add activity. To put in perspective, we target you for, say, 10,000 steps a day. So 10K steps. Majority of females is probably going to be around maybe 5 to 7 kilometers, let's say, on average, again, dependent on your height. So for every kilometer, you're going to burn about 75 calories. Okay? 75 calories per kilometer. That's assuming you're working at a fairly average pace. So your average male, this is probably going to bump up to about 100. Now again, based on your size, your muscle tissue, your overall body weight, if you're carrying a lot of body fat, it's a complete myth that people with high body fat immediately just have slow metabolism. It's because they eat too much and don't move enough. But the heavier you are, the more activity it's going to take, the more energy it's going to take for you to move. So if we were to consider, we're doing 10,000 steps, most females are going to do around 5K, most males anywhere between, let's say, 5 and 7K. So we already know that a guy is going to burn about an extra 700 calories on top of, let's say, the 400 that his brain takes, on top of potentially the 800 to 1,000 that his body will require if he's moving around day to day, he's relatively active. Okay, all of these things need to be taken into account. A female, 5 times 75, what's that? 375. If my maths is off, forgive me. So an extra 375 calories. So let's say with our 10,000 steps, with our brain function alone, then adding to the body, we're starting to build up a picture of what calories are required based on our exercise. Then if we add into all of that, plus our training session, females, let's say 300 to 400, males 400 to 600. Now again, there's variables there. It's based on intensity, the amount of muscle tissue. The majority of males, an average male is probably going to have 20 to 25% more muscle tissue than a female. So he's going to burn a few more calories because that muscle tissue is active. So you start to build a picture of basic calorie requirements. Now remember, we're talking about the basic calorie requirements here for maintenance. So if we've said the brain took 400, we've said that the 10,000 steps a day takes 700. We've said that the exercise day to day is going to be another 400, so it's plus 400. 400, then plus our day to day. What have we got there? 1,100 plus our random activity. Let's say for an average guy, average being around 75 to 80 kilos, 2,100 is probably going to be about maintenance. Okay, so that's the day-to-day maintenance that that person is going to need. Now, what we want to do and what we try to do on the plan is give you about a 15% deficit in order to start losing fat. So 2,100 is that 10% is, 210, 15% is 305, or 315. So let's say out of that, we take away 315 calories. We're working off a male here, for example, minus 315 calories. So we know around 1,800 calories. If that guy is doing minimal activity, minimal activity, it's probably going to need about 18 or 1900 calories. Now, some of you are coming way down. And remember, this is for like a 70 odd kilo guy, 70, 75 kilo guy. For a female, let's say we're doing the same thing. We'll wipe all of that and get rid of it. Let's say, for example, remember these are ballparks. These are not necessarily totally accurate. It's about perspective. Let's say 400 for the brain. We need another 800 for the body. We have another, what do we say, about 400 for the walking. We need another, let's say 300 for the training. Okay, so what we've got there, 1200, 1600, 1900, 1900 at basic maintenance. Okay, so this is if we were going to say, this is what we're going to settle at if someone is doing minimal amounts of activity, they are just cruising through their day, etc. 15% deficit from that is what 190 plus, it's about give or take around 270, right? Something like that, minus 270. So this person's fat loss is going to be somewhere around 1600 to 1700. Now, remember the variables within that are going to be based on needs. If someone is doing slightly more activity, then that's going to go up. If someone is training a little bit harder than somebody else, that is going to go up. Okay, so the goal is to find out, if we would say that's worst case scenario, the goal would be if we can teach that person to train a little bit harder and take that 1700 a day to 2000 a day, but they can still lose fat, epic. If they are full of energy, so they're actually doing their steps with a little bit more intent, a little bit more intensity, you'll find that maybe that bumps up to 2,200. Okay, this is why the further people get into training, the more muscle tissue they put on, all of these such things. And we're not talking about big visual changes. Very often, especially with the VIP training, when we can really monitor this closely, we can get female clients up to 3,500 calories a day, which means, you know, for example, we talk about sustainability in a diet. That could be 2.5 of super clean food. The rest of it can be a bit of fun. It can be some chocolate, it can be some cake, it can be this, it can be that. Because when you have active muscle tissue, it's going to burn loads more calories. When you have the right amount of calories, you're not causing fatigue. You're not reducing all of the things needed to produce the right hormones. Your reproductive cycle is not being disturbed. Your sleep is not being disturbed. Your anxiety levels are not high because you're not constantly under stress. If you are always trying to run off minimal calories, you are creating a stress to the body, a stress to the hormone system, and cortisol, that stress, which is going to be from emotional, physical, mental environment, it's going to fuck everything up. For sure it will. So do not be scared of calories. If we have prescribed you calories that you are finding, oh, I'm scared of this, I don't want to do it, commit to it. You have to commit to it, because even if you've been eating way under that, the worst case scenario is that we will need to reverse diet you, bring it back up. Now, your body will regulate itself to the amount of calories you're taking in. So let's say, whatever, we have the amount of calories your body needs to use day to day in order to fire optimally. We're talking about for everything to work perfectly, for your hormones to work perfectly, for your neurotransmitters, everything's going, your brain is on fire, you're productive, no brain fog, your muscles are feeling good, your training sessions are awesome, all of these things. Let's say, for example, that is this line, okay? Everything is working perfectly. That's my maintenance, that's where I want to be. Now, if, say for argument's sake, we do 3,000 calories there, whatever. If you give it 2,000 calories, because you say, right, I want to lose weight really, really fast, not necessarily going to work, there's a good chance you'll lose a load of muscle if you create that big a deficit, but what's eventually going to happen, so this is our new line, this is how much food we're actually giving it. Eventually, your body will say, well, hang on, this is what I need to work on all cylinders to go 100%. After probably 7 to 10 days, it will start to go, it's no longer working at 100%, okay? It's suboptimal. It's essentially gone into power save mode. So rather than everything firing on all cylinders, you've shut down half of them. So some of the automated processes in the background start to slow down to say, well, if I'm only being given this much, I need to make sure I down-regulate everything. So I'm going to be a bit more fatigued. Maybe my sex drive starts to go. Maybe my anxiety starts to go up. All of these things, because I'm no longer feeding my body everything I need. Now, very often, the common thing to do, and it's not necessarily the wrong thing to do, depends on the calorie level, is at this stage, we stop losing fat. So potentially, what we would do is try and bring that line down a little bit. But then, after 7 to 10 days, The body will come and meet that. It will shut down even more. And then we start to have even more problems. Potentially, again, dependent on the overall calories, it could do that 7 to 10 days, and it will bring itself back down. So this is your 100% mark. The lower you take your calories, the lower your output becomes. So let's say you're running at 70% now. We're talking about everything. Automated processes, physical processes, voluntary and involuntary. Now, we need to bring it back up to here, and we want to try and keep it up there as long as possible. So very often you're going to hit this baseline when your body says, right, okay, enough now. I've shut down as many processes as I can shut down. My stress hormones are going through the roof. I'm feeling hungry, I'm feeling anxious, my rest and recovery's got, I'm not going to lose any more fat, because what's happening at this stage is your body is saying there is a first line of defense to starvation. Like, starvation mode is a myth. It's rubbish. You don't suddenly stop using fat. If you go out into the desert and you don't get to eat for a month, you are going to lose every bit of fat in your body, but you also lose every single piece of muscle in your body. You will likely start to eat through your organs. You'll feel terrible. Okay, we never want that. What we want to do is feel great and perform well. So when your body is starting to flatline at this stage, it's going to say, I'm done. You're not going to lose any more fat here. Okay, now if you just focus on the calories in, calories out argument, at this point, when that first warning sign comes of your body saying, well, I'm going to hold on to as much fat as I can now because you keep down-regulating the amount or downsizing the amount of nutrients you're giving me, it will put a stop to it and say, right, I'm going to hold on here. No, no way. It's like a game of cards. If you play higher or lower, now this is where your common sense comes in. If you play higher or lower, so I slap down a 2, probability would suggest the next card is going to be higher. Next card, a 4, sweet. Probability would suggest that the next card is going to be higher. 9, okay, right. Probability here could kind of go either way, but I'm going to go lower. Bam, okay. What you need to think about is, right, based on where my calories are now, what is the probability that taking more away is going to help versus adding more to bring me back up here? Because remember, this is our energy output as well. The better you're operating, the more energy you're burning. More energy you're burning, fasting metabolism, that in itself is creating a deficit. Okay, so we are all going to hit this baseline. It's very, very important we try to stay away. And this is where very many different, more advanced techniques come in. So for example, let's say this is going to be more relevant to the VIP clients where we can integrate more advanced diet strategies. Let's say we've done this, we've down-regulated and we're hit like a comfortable baseline. So for a 100-kilo guy, I'm not really going to want to go any lower than 2,000. It's absolutely not necessary. If a guy has stopped losing fat on that amount, then I want to try and make sure we never stray too far from this line. We don't want to keep coming down. So things that we can integrate, for example, are refeeds. After that 7 to 10 days, when we think, right, it's going to be down-regulating now, we spike the calories for a day or two, back up to maintenance. We're giving them 3,000 calories again. What that does, that brings the metabolism, all of the processes back up here, and it may give us another 7 to 10 days to play with before it drops back down. Then we can refeed again. Bam! Brings it up here, may start to drop 7 to 10 days, like so. That's one strategy to keep us in this position, because if we're at a stage where our energy output is matching the amount of food we're given because things have down-regulated, we're no longer burning fat. Okay? We're not getting leaner at that stage. We're just fatiguing ourselves, getting pissed off, getting bitter, getting resentful, and then thinking, why the hell am I doing this? So that's one option. Another option is carb cycling. Carb cycling is an advanced diet strategy that we use with VIPs, where we can bring it down for a couple of days, pump it back up on training days, bring it down for a couple of days, pump it back up on training days, bring it down, pump it up. Now, for example, all of these sections here, you're creating a deficit between the calories that your body is burning and the amount you're giving it, okay? So in all of these sections, your body's saying, sweet, I'm burning through fat like a madman. It's the same on these ones. Bam, I'm burning through fat, I'm burning through fat, I'm burning through fat, in theory, okay? Once you meet that line, once your metabolism is down-regulated to the amount of food you're giving it, you're no longer going to be burning fat. There's a good chance you start burning muscle at that point. The less muscle you have because you're burning through it, the metabolism is going to slow even further, creating that barrier to fat loss. Okay, so it's really, 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 really important to understand you must not be scared of calories and must not be scared of carbohydrates and all of these things, because there is so many other things going on. Your calories are not simply there as a get fat or don't get fat, or lose fat or don't lose fat. It's also nourishment. It's feeding your hormones. It's feeding your brain. It's feeding your day-to-day activity and fidgeting. It's making sure your stress hormones stay low. It's keeping your sex drive high. It's keeping your skin healthy. Remember, all of these nutrients from your food, they are the same nutrients that keep you from aging, that keep your hair healthy, that keep your vision strong, that keep your teeth from going brittle, to keep your nails from going brittle. It's not just about muscle and fat. Every single thing in your body needs nutrients in order to regenerate. So if you're choosing to eat way below your calories all of the time, or you're very fearful about pushing these things up, you're aging yourself very, very quickly as well, which none of us want. We all want to stay young, we want to look good, we want to feel good for as long as possible and prolong our quality of life. So don't fear the calories. The message behind this video, I know it's been a long one, is that calories are required, nutrients are required. And if in your brain you are just focusing on calories in versus calories out, you are going to have a problem, because either you're going to overtrain, which means you're not going to be recovering from your training, not going to be progressing, or you're going to try to starve yourself, okay? And this is not going to be a positive thing, because we want to build muscle, we want to perform well, we want to be as active as possible. When we are active, we want to deliver as much intensity into that activity as possible. Right? If you're starving yourself and you're constantly only running on 1 or 2 cylinders, you are not going to be delivering on all of those variables. Eat enough calories, eat enough nutrients, and this is the key, it's not just about calories, eat enough nutrients, your body will thank you and your results will be significantly better, and you will be able to keep those results long term. Because anyone out there who has done diets in the past or is trying to do the same thing now, I know a lot of you are still not eating what I'm asking you to eat. If you are starving yourself lean, the second you can no longer do that, when your will runs out, your body is going to go straight back out. Whereas those of you who are choosing to try and follow this and say, how many calories can I possibly eat whilst still getting lean? Those of you are going to keep that lean physique for the rest of your life, because you are not making something unsustainable. You are not down-regulating your metabolism. You're not down-regulating all of your processes. You're not going to be getting ill all the time. You're not going to have loads of chronic issues, okay? Don't fear calories. And even if at the moment, because of bad yo-yo dieting cycles and things like that, you're down here, even if your diet baseline is down at the bottom, we can bring it up. It's called reverse dieting. I'll do another video on that. But that's simply a case of you eat a few more calories for a week or two. You wait for this line to move back up, because it does in just the same way that it moves down, it moves back up. Then when everything's good, don't know why that's gone thick. Then when everything's good, you up your calories, that line will move up again. When everything's good, you up your calories, that line will move up again. So you can up-regulate your metabolic output and your processes just in the same way that you down-regulate. It just takes time. You have to do it gradually. Okay, so it doesn't matter where you are. Some of you out there say, no, this just couldn't possibly work for me. With all due respect, I love every one of you, but you're not special. Every single one of your bodies out there works the same. Now, yes, some of you may have certain medical issues. You know, for me, for example, I was diagnosed with hypogonadism when I was 21 after an illness. So my testosterone is as low as it can go. They can't actually track mine because it's lower than the medical limit. But I live with it and I do my job with it. My thyroid. Again, I have some issue with my pituitary gland, which is why I was obese as a child and as a young adult. My pituitary gland does not communicate with my thyroid, so I have no thyroid output whatsoever. Yes, it causes me problems. Yes, it's difficult. But I'm not walking around at 160 kilos saying, oh, it's because I've got thyroid problems. Yes, I have thyroid problems, but deal with it. Each one of us can try to manipulate these systems for best results, but you have to be willing to let go of what you think you know. And this is what so many of you out there I'm finding on the forums and in various messages you are just not doing. If you've come onto this plan, if you come onto any plan that I've done, try to do what is asked of you rather than second guessing it and thinking, I shouldn't be eating more carbs, I shouldn't be eating more calories. Because otherwise, you're going to go through exactly the same cycles that have likely led you here in the first place. Okay? For anyone who has managed to make it all the way through that video, it was longer than was intended. Well done. Any questions, chuck them in the comments box below and I'll go through them.